Okay, so get ready because today we're diving into something pretty interesting, how teens in the U.S. and Canada spend their free time.
Sounds fun.
Yeah, and we've got this educational text we're going to be looking at,
Okay.
and it might seem a little dry at first glance, but trust me, we're going to find some really interesting stuff.
Yeah, I bet.
It's like, if you were putting together a presentation or a report on this topic, right?
Yeah,
You'd want like the key facts and some memorable details, right?
for sure, for sure.
So that's what we're here to do.
Totally. Yeah.
So let's get started.
All right.
What do we got?
So we're going to start with Canada.
Okay, cool.
And the text says that a big chunk of Canadian teenagers, like 45% to be exact.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah. They love spending the free time on computers, like surfing the web, emails, gaming, all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, these days it's like their whole life is on there, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And, it makes me wonder if that has anything to do with Canada's climate. Like maybe those long winters, kind of drive everybody indoors and online.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
They got to stay warm somehow, right?
Right, exactly. And it's worth noting that Canada actually has a pretty thriving tech industry,
Oh, yeah,
particularly in cities like Toronto and Vancouver.
makes sense.
So that early exposure to technology, and a strong digital infrastructure could also be playing a role.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, kids these days are like digital natives.
Totally.
Okay, so lots of computer time for those Canadian teens.
Yeah.
What else do they like to do?
Well, coming in at number 2 is watching films on TV.
Okay.
20% of teens chose that one.
Oh, wow.
And the interesting thing is, within that category,
Yeah,
adventure and comedy films are the clear favorites.
no surprise there.
Yeah.
Who doesn't love a good laugh?
Exactly.
Especially when you're a teenager.
Yes, right.
You just want to have fun.
Exactly. 12 out of those 20 teens chose those genres.
Okay, cool.
But of course, we can't forget about the 8 out of 20 who prefer horror or sci-fi.
Yeah.
They're out there.
Right. Maybe they're looking for something a little more intense or, thought-provoking.
Yeah. Or maybe they just like being scared.
Could be right.
Who knows?
Yeah. Or maybe they're drawn to the creativity and imagination of those genres.
Right. It's really interesting to think about
Yeah,
how those genre preferences might reflect different personality types.
definitely.
Okay, so we've talked about the Canadian teens.
Right?
I'm kind of curious what the U.S. teens are up to.
Yeah. Okay, so get ready for a little bit of a shift here.
Okay.
Listening to music actually takes the top spot for U.S. teens.
Really?
Yeah. A whopping 42% chose it as their favorite pastime.
Wow.
That's almost double the percentage of Canadian teens.
That's a huge difference.
Yeah, it is.
I wonder why that is.
Well, it makes you think, right?
Yeah.
Like, does that say anything about the music scenes in each country?
Maybe.
Maybe the U.S. just has like a more dominant pop culture
Uh-huh.
that really influences teenagers.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
And speaking of pop culture, the text points out that within that music-loving group,
Okay.
pop music reigns supreme.
Of course.
20 out of those 42 teens named it as their favorite.
Oh, so what are we talking about here? What are the big pop stars that teenagers are listening to these days?
I don't know. I'm a little out of touch.
Me too. It would be fascinating to dive into that, see
Yeah.
what those top songs are and how that all plays into it.
Totally.
Okay, so lots of music lovers down in the U.S.
Yes.
What else did we learn about them?
Well, just like their Canadian counterparts,
Yeah.
they also enjoy watching films on TV.
Okay.
30% chose that.
All right.
But here's a pretty interesting difference.
Okay.
A larger percentage of U.S. teens prefer spending time with friends.
Oh, really?
Yeah, 10%.
Yeah.
Versus staying at home, which was only 3%.
So they're more social.
Yeah, it seems like they really prioritize those face-to-face interactions.
Interesting.
Maybe that means they're more extroverted.
Maybe.
Or maybe there's just a greater emphasis on social activities in the U.S. Yeah, it does kind of challenge that stereotype we always hear about American teenagers being glued to their screens,
Right.
at least to some extent.
Definitely. So it seems like Canadian teens are really drawn to computers
Right.
and lighter movie genres.
While the U.S. teens are all about music
Yes.
and hanging out with their friends.
Exactly. But it is important to remember that this is just a snapshot
Right.
based on a limited sample of teens.
Of course.
And that brings us to a final thought for our listeners.
Okay, hit us with it.
How do you think these trends might evolve in the next 5 years?
That's a good question.
Especially given how fast technology changes.
Yeah, and culture too, right?
Absolutely. What new activities might emerge? And how will those impact how teens spend their free time?
Yeah, that's something to really think about.
It is.
Well, this has been really interesting.
Yeah, it has.
Thanks for joining me today.
My pleasure.
And thanks to all of our listeners for tuning in.
Until next time.
See ya.
Bye.
Hola a todos y bienvenidos a nuestra inmersión profunda de hoy.
Cool.
Vamos a echar un vistazo a cómo los adolescentes de Canadá y Estados Unidos pasan su tiempo libre.
Sí.
Tenemos datos de encuestas de 100 adolescentes en cada país.
100 adolescentes, exactamente.
Debería darnos una buena idea de lo que está sucediendo.
Sí, definitivamente.
Entonces, comencemos en las computadoras. De
Ya,
acuerdo.
me parece bien.
Parece que al 45% de los adolescentes canadienses les gusta usar computadoras en su tiempo libre.
Interesante.
Navegando por la red, revisando correos electrónicos, jugando... Ya sabes, todas esas cosas buenas.
Las cosas digitales.
Sí, exactamente.
¿Sí?
Pero en los medio o U, solo el 15% de los adolescentes
Oh, wow.
prefieren las computadoras.
Eso es una gran diferencia.
Es una gran diferencia, ¿verdad?
Sí.
Te pregunto, ¿por qué es eso?
Bueno, supongo que podríamos especular. Podría ser que los adolescentes estadounidenses estén más interesados en otras cosas.
Es cierto, como la música.
Exactamente.
El 42% de los adolescentes estadounidenses dicen que la música es su pasatiempo favorito.
Eso es enorme.
Sí.
Enorme.
Enorme.
¿Y sabes qué? El 20% de esos amantes de la música son grandes fanáticos del pop.
¿En serio?
Sí.
Bueno, no me sorprende.
¿El pop siempre es popular?
El pop es pegadizo,
Sí,
es divertido.
definitivamente.
Pero solo el 15% de los canadienses eligen la música como su pasatiempo favorito.
Interesante. Una gran diferencia,
Es una gran diferencia de nuevo.
Sí.
Pues tal vez los adolescentes estadounidenses estén más sintonizados con la escena musical.
Está bien.
O tal vez los adolescentes canadienses son más observados.
Tal vez sean más del tipo al aire libre.
Podría ser.
Sí.
Ahora, hablando de cosas que tanto los adolescentes canadienses como los estadounidenses disfrutan,
Ajá.
parece que ver películas en la televisión es bastante popular en ambos países.
Tiene sentido.
El 20% de los canadienses y el 30% de los estadounidenses dicen que es algo que les gusta hacer.
Cine para todos.
Exactamente.
Y
Y cuando se trata de canadienses, bueno, parece que las películas de aventuras y las comedias son las que más les gustan.
no es de extrañar. A todo el mundo le encanta una buena risa.
Y una pequeña emoción también.
Por supuesto.
Desafortunadamente, la encuesta no nos dice qué tipos de películas prefieren los adolescentes estadounidenses.
Ah, eso es una lástima.
Yo sé, es un misterio.
Sí.
Pero bueno, pasemos a otras actividades.
Pues bueno.
Entonces, en Canadá, al 12% de los adolescentes les gusta ir de compras
Compras clásicas.
y al 8% le gusta ir al gimnasio.
Manteniéndose activos.
Sí, mientras que al 10% de los adolescentes les gusta pasar el rato con amigos.
Sociables.
Y solo el 3% prefiere quedarse en casa.
Interesante.
Parece que hay algunas diferencias bastante claras en cómo los adolescentes de estos dos países
Sí.
eligen pasar su tiempo libre.
Definitivamente.
¿Qué piensas? ¿Te sorprenden estos hallazgos?
Sabes, es fascinante ver cómo la cultura puede influir en los pasatiempos.
Absolutamente.
También me pregunto cómo la tecnología ha cambiado las cosas desde que se realizó esta encuesta.
Oh, sí, buena pregunta.
Quiero decir, con las redes sociales y los juegos en línea y todo eso.
Es un mundo completamente nuevo.
Sí, sí lo es.
Bueno, desafortunadamente eso es todo el tiempo que tenemos por hoy.
Oh, qué rápido pasa el tiempo.
Pero esta ha sido una mirada realmente interesante
Sí,
a cómo los adolescentes en dos países diferentes pasan su tiempo libre.
definitivamente.
Gracias a todos por unirse a nosotros para esta inmersión profunda.
Hasta la próxima.
¡Adiós!